the series is officially over, as we did win the Champions League in the last episode. So I think what we'll do for the next few episodes is reminisce on some of the players that helped us get to where we are. So in this episode, we're going to be looking at the first three teams we were at. So that'll be Swansea Uni, Glentoran and AIK, looking at some of our favourite players, where they are now. Some of them have retired. We'll look at where the clubs are now. Did they win more trophies after we left? Or did they struggle and go downhill? We'll find out today, as we will be going through our first three clubs of the series. And I hope you enjoy the reminiscing that we do, because some of these players, we haven't seen for such a long time. Think about it, Swansea Uni was 12 years ago now. So some of these players are, it's a very much different type of player. Like if you look at the likes of, Kolovic and Ruane and Gomez and Victor Gallen, and you look at some players like Cameron Archer, Levi Lang and Leighton Stewart, you might be thinking, there's such a mad difference. But we're going to use this episode to look at the first three clubs and where they are now. So I hope you enjoy as we take a trip down memory lane. What is happening, guys? My name is Adam, I am a Super Swan, and welcome to Club 6, episode 28 of the FM20 Campus to Champions. A spoiler alert, we won the Champions League in the last episode, on penalties against Arsenal. We did the job, so the official series is over. But we're going to take time to look back through the save and see how our former teams have got on since we left them. Have they continued success? Who knows? And we'll look at our former players as well. So we might as well make a start. We'll jump straight into it. And we're going to start where it all began. That's our manager profile. 42 years old, 240 grand a week. We finished on 4.5 star on our reputation. Most of the characteristics are green, known for leading teams to title wins. That is what I'm about, and as you can see, I'm very much a fan of playing younger players and not signing elderly players, which is generally the football manager way. So our overall career stats, which if I load it up in full view so we can have a better picture. So we've managed 6 clubs, bought 126 players worth £1.51 billion. So Kolovic is about 250 mil of that. And we sold 1.21 billion. So our net spend is 300 million. That's not too bad over the course of the save. That's nearly one Benjamin Kolovic, which was our highest fee spent at 215 mil. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And our highest fee received was selling Jadon Sancho for 73 mil, which, I think we had a good price for him. So our overall career stats, 622 games played, 1,320 goals scored, 456 against. We are plus 864 goal difference, with a win percentage of 70%, 438 wins, 90 draws, and less than 100 defeats in the save, which I think is pretty good. 10 cups, 7 leagues, 1 promotion, which was our first season with Swansea Uni, so that's the promotion on the record. 0 relegations. As the profile says, I lead teams to title glory, so 17 cups we have won during our time as a manager. And like I say, what we'll do is we'll have a look through the job history and we'll go through each team individually. So we started at Swansea Uni, so let's have a look at where they've ended up since we left them. So we took over them here, so we got them promoted to the Welsh Premier League. So we came first in the JD Cymru South. We came second twice to TNS, and we were 1 goal out each time, so that was a bit disappointing. But they came 4th, 7th, 8th, 2nd, so they come back towards the top. 7th, 3rd, 2nd, 5th, and 3rd. So they still haven't managed to win the Welsh Premier League, but think about it, right? Swansea Uni are an amateur side. They don't pay their players. They're a uni side. So the fact that they are a top 3, top 4 team in the Welsh Premier League is an achievement on itself. So Swansea Uni have done very well for themselves, an established Welsh Premier League team. So let's have a look at some of the players on our former players shortlist. And I'm going to have to type these in because some of them have retired from the game and they no longer show up on the former players shortlist. So I've gone through all the saves to find all the players that we added in that list. And the first one that's on the list is Leighton Stewart. Now, he was a player that we brought in our 3rd season at Swansea Uni, and he's now retired at 28. He was with us for 6 months, scored 13 goals, and then Notts County snapped him up. But he did move on to Notts County, Gillingham. He has now retired from the game, but at 28 years old. But, a lot of these sort of early players are probably retired by now, but these are the players that really got us going while we're at Swansea Uni. Lasted 6 months before being snapped up by Notts County. He is now retired from the game. A very good striker for the very limited time that we had him. The second player, Levi Lang. Now, he was a centre-back we brought in. He is at Doncaster in this save. He was at Cambridge United for a long time. If we look at his career stats, again, we only had him for 6 months at Swansea Uni. He was released by Arsenal, but he is very much a League 2, League 1 player. And he's been bouncing around both League 2 and League 1 with Cambridge United before moving on to Doncaster. So, he did get a few fair promotions and relegations during his time. But Levi Lang, we knew when he was at Swansea Uni, he was too good for our division. And it kind of shows, really, by the fact that he was an established, League 1, League 2 player. So Levi Lang, he was a very good centre-back for the time that we had him. And the third player is Mark Helm. Now, Mark Helm, what a player Mark Helm was, right? We had him for 1 year in the Welsh Premier League. He lit up the division. He had loads of assists. He was running the play through Swansea Uni. He was our best player, I think, in that first season. And it really did show because after he sort of left us, he had his best year at Swansea Uni, 30 appearances, 3 goals. It doesn't show the assists, but he was an absolute creative monster in that attacking midfield position. But he did go to leave to Mansfield, and he sadly retired at 24 years old. So Mark Helm, he made a mistake. He should have stayed at Swansea Uni, because his career went downhill ever since. He retired at Mansfield. He went on loan to Guiseley, I think I should say Guiseley, who are in the National League North. So, again, he was a National League player, really, but at Swansea Uni, he lit it up. So, Mark Helm, very disappointed. He retired very early on in his career. But I think if he'd have stayed at Swansea Uni, I think he would have made a very good career for himself. But we'll have a look at another player, Cameron Archer. Again, there's a story with Cameron Archer. He was our striker in the Welsh Premier League. He was with us for, I think, 6 months in that first season, scored 11 goals. And then, of course, TNS signed him up, as with, TNS just buy all the good players. And because we were a uni side, they could just offer him a contract. We had no contract with him, so he could leave at any time. And he did just that. He left to go to TNS, and he's now retired at 26. So Cameron Archer, again, another player. You should have stayed at Swansea Uni. And you could tell from the history on the right-hand side here, he had his best ever season with Swansea Uni before hardly ever scoring for TNS. And that's the problem. TNS, they just hoover up all the good talent, and then they move on. So Cameron Archer should have stayed at Swansea Uni, my friend. You should have stayed at Swansea Uni. So we've got another player, Jaden Bennett. If I can spell his name right, there we go. Another important player in our Premier League seasons with Swansea Uni. He stayed there for a while. 267 appearances for Swansea Uni. Fair play, Jaden Bennett. He stayed at Swansea Uni well after we left, because we stayed there for 3 seasons. But he stayed there for a good 9 years before going to Stevenage to see out the rest of his career. He retired at 29 years old, but 269 appearances, and a lot of those, everyone bar two was with Swansea Uni. And he did pick up a fair few goals. He was a right-hand side winger, if I remember rightly. He was either right or left. But Jane Bennett's a Swansea Uni legend. Probably more of a legend than me at the Uni. But we'll have a look at one more player. We got Ryan Alabusu. So if I can spell his name right, he is still at Swansea Uni at 30 years old. Another player that stuck by the Swansea University. 30 years old now. He's in his, 11th season with Swansea Uni, and he's pretty much been a first teamer throughout that time as well. And bear in mind, right, he is not on a contract. They are not paying him to be there. So Ryan Alabusu staying at Swansea Uni for the rest of his career. So that is Swansea Uni. So overall, they did very well. They stayed towards the top four of the Welsh leagues. Fair play. I think we did well at Swansea Uni. I think, they've done well, I did well. We all moved on from that very nicely. It is half time in the video. Thank you for reaching this far. YouTube advises me that over 2/3 of watchers are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, go drop a subscription down there and help support the channel. It'll be very much appreciated. And if you're already subscribed, thank you very much, as always. So I'll let you carry on with the rest of the video. Hopefully, you are enjoying so far. So the second club we were at, we moved on to Glentoran. We were only there for 1 year, even though we had to play the last game at the end of the previous season. So where were we? So there's our season. You can tell where we joined because they were languishing around about, lower end of the table. And then they shot up to win the league in our first season. We won everything in our first year. We only stayed there for 1 season. But then they did drop to 5th the year we left. Then second. They did go back up to 1st. So they did win the league again after we left. But then 4th, 9th they dropped as far as 5th and 6th. So really, they hit a peak. They continue to be a kind of a top tier team. And now they've kind of dropped back down to where we kind of left them, all those years ago. So Glentoran, they did win one more league after we left, but it's a shame they didn't really follow up on the success that we brought them. But let's have a look at some players that were at Glentoran during our time. We got Sean Banks. He was a Welsh midfielder we brought in from Liverpool. He's now at Cardiff Met Uni. So he's now playing without a contract. He's gone back to Wales to play in the Welsh Premier League, but he stayed at Glentoran for a fair few years. That year he's got 11 goals from midfield. And then he signed by Larne, which Larne are like the Man City of Northern Ireland, so Larne snapped him up for actual money, because Glentoran, we couldn't sign anybody for money. It was all free transfers. But Larne snapped him up, played there for 3 years, then went on to Cardiff Met Uni, where he's been playing for the last 2 seasons. But Sean Banks, a Welshman coming in with me to Northern Ireland to help, because I needed a mate. I needed a mate to come with me. But Sean Banks now playing in the Welsh Premier League. And now one of my favourite players of the save, Bill Lewis, the 6'8" tank. He was with us at Swansea Uni. We brought him with us to Glentoran. 6'8". What a monster he was. I loved him. He was a right back, but we trained him as centre back because he's a fairly decent centre back. I think he could do a job, in the Championship, League One, definitely with those attributes. 29 years old. He stayed at Glentoran for a long time after we left, so another loyal player. Then, of course, Larne snapped him up because Larne snap everybody up. Played there for 2 years before they went, don't need him anymore. And then he's now playing at Glenarvan in the Danksbank Premiership. So he's still in Northern Ireland after he left us. But Bill Lewis, what a monster. 6'8" tank. Still wrecking the Danksbank Premiership. We've got Josh Daniels. So a left-hand side winger. He's now retired at 32. But to be fair, he did have a very good career with us. He's with us for a couple of years, I think, or at least 1 year. He was with us, so we signed him here, 22. Yeah, there's the season we signed him. So 34 appearances, 12 goals. Obviously, we only were at Glentoran for 1 year. He moved on to Larne the season we left, So again, Lon just buying all the best players, Man City pretty much. And they're very similar to TNS. TNS do the same, they just sign all the best players. But then he went to Ballymena United, then Crusaders before he retired. But 32 years old, Josh Daniels was a good player. And then, of course, we have the player of the save, Glenn Green. He was a 15-year-old in the Glentoran Academy when we found him. We brought him with us to AIK, to PSV, to Lazio, to Liverpool, before we decided, you know what, we're holding him back. Our sentiment was holding him back, so we let him go to, you see out your career how you want to. And he is at RC Lens in Ligue 1 in France, and he has tore it up this season. 12 goals for Lens in the Ligue 1. Fair play, Glenn Green, what a player. You can see there, he followed us throughout the career, scored goals everywhere he went, apart from Liverpool, but he didn't really get a game for us at Liverpool, but scored goals in AIK, scored goals for PSV, scored goals for Lazio. Everywhere he went, he scored goals. And what a legend Glenn Green is. He is 100% the player of the save. So that is Glentoran. Again, they kind of went back to where they were when before we took over them. But, we had a very good year at Glentoran, so we can't knock them too much for that. But after we left Glentoran, we stepped up. We left the UK. We went over the sea to Sweden to join AIK, who was our first sort of job where we actually had to balance the money, the wages, the transfer budgets. So where did we take over? We took over around here. So we won the league 2 years running, the Allsvenskan, and then they won it the year after, so they carried on the success. Dropped down to 6th the year after, so a bit of a blip there. But they did bounce back to win it the following year. 2nd 2029, 1st 2030, 1st 2031. So before we took over, they were a top team. They were up there or thereabouts. They'd won a few titles before. But after we took over, they've become a bit of a dynasty over in Sweden. And they've really now brought the success back to Sweden. But let's have a look at some of the players we had at AIK. And the first one was Nathaniel Ario. Now, he's at Chelsea. £60 million. He was a right back. We signed him for really low money. How much did we sign him for? 2.4 mil. He was with us for 2 years. He was a fantastic right back. I think even then, we knew we had a player of our hands. We signed 2 Arios. We had Nathaniel Ario. I think it was Ronnie Ario as well. But Nathaniel was the one with the potential. And the board accepted a 10.25 mil offer. It was out of our hands. But we did cash in on him. And we did actually have him at Lazio as well. We loaned him from Chelsea while we were at Lazio. And now he's a fully established right back in the Premier League. 21 caps for Spain. Him and Victor Gallen are probably fighting for that right back position. But what a player Nathaniel Ario was for us at AIK. He's developed into an absolute monster. And again, I think he's probably our first proper breakout player in the save. The player that we knew was going to go on to be that sort of top tier player. But Nathaniel Ario, what a right back he was for us. But the next player, Niels Froling, a left-hand side winger. You normally cut inside. He's now playing at Auxerre in France. How's he getting on? 32 years old, 6 caps for Sweden. Can also play striker. So we had him around, I would say here, 24, 25. So he stayed another couple more years in Sweden before being snapped up by Montpellier in Ligue 2, where he scored 7 goals in 28 appearances. Went to Belgium for a year before smashing 19 goals in 57 appearances in the league. So that was a long season out in France. But he's been a bit part player ever since, really. So I think Froling's kind of found his level at sort of Ligue 1 and Ligue 2 level out in France. But he was a very good left-hand-sided player, one of my favourite players while we were at AIK. Top draw, I think he'd probably make my team of the save on that left-hand side. So we've got William Tunnell. I got to spell this right. So there we go, Will Tunnell. He's at Rosenborg, so he was one of our first big striker purchases. We signed him for like £1 million. For 28 years old, no caps for Sweden. so he really hasn't kicked on as much as we would have liked, but, he was quite prolific the first year we had him, so there we are, we signed him for £1 million, which at the time was my biggest ever signing, I think, and he scored 13 goals the following season, so he really turned up in that second year, stayed for 4 more years, but he really wasn't as prolific as he was when we had him, before being signed by Rosenborg in Norway. So he went over to one of the other countries, and he's doing alright. Scored 14 goals the season before last. So William Tennell is a very good sort of Norwegian top-tier striker. But yeah, he did the job when we needed him to. So it's nice to see William Tennell still grabbing the goals. And the last player we're going to look at is Mabrak Nah, the man we signed on the right-hand side. We had him at PSV as well on loan, but I think he wasn't quite at that level. But he's now playing in Switzerland with Servette. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But 30 years old, 22 caps for Sweden. So he's been recognised internationally. And he's had a fairly decent career as well. So we brought him in here, 2.2 million, which again was a very big purchase when we were at AIK. And look at that, there, 2.2 mil, 9 goals, 3 assists. Did pretty well for himself there. And he went on to Bordeaux. We had him on loan at PSV for a year. And then he went to AEK out in Greece. Followed by in Switzerland, where he is now. So yeah, he's doing pretty alright for himself, Mabrak Nah. So he's carved himself out a decent career. And as far as AIK goes, I mean, yeah, we look at those. Yeah, they've kind of turned into one of Sweden's top teams, barring that blip of a season in 2027. They've gone back to where they should be, at the top of the Swedish division. So looking at the time, we're about 20 minutes in, I think. So what we'll do is I think we'll split this up into 2 parts. So this half's going to cover the first 3 teams we were at. So that'll have been Swansea Uni, Glentoran and AIK. So what we'll do is we'll come back next time to look at the other 3 teams, which I think will be a lot quicker to go through because it's players that are already at top clubs. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave it there for now. We've done the first 3 teams and we'll come back next time to look at some of the players we had over at PSV Eindhoven and Lazio, followed by looking at the Liverpool players before we eventually resign from Liverpool. But leave a like if you enjoyed, guys. Subscribe to the channel for more Football Manager 2020 content. We will be uploading Campus to Champions every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, 6 PM BST. And tune in next time as we look at the players we had from Lazio, from PSV and from Liverpool before we finally resign as manager. Thank you very much for watching.